morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. This press conference with Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Ryan. The Carson Hinsman situation has been a little bit of a mystery for us. Can you explain what's going on there? Is he close to maybe contributing for you guys this year?
Yeah, he's going to get some reps. A couple different spots this week, but he most been staying at center, and Seth's obviously been doing a great job there. But yeah, he'll mix in a couple different positions this week.
And is the plan still Donnie at left tackle, and what do you plan on doing at left guard if so?
We're still going to work through it. I'm not going to kind of throw that out there yet. We'll see how the week works, but see how Zen comes in today, and we'll keep going through it.
Far left, Joe Nucci.
How do you work what the new offensive line would be able to do best as you head to Penn State?
Well, we're not going to all of a sudden radically change what we do. We just have to move some things around if Zen can't go, and then continue to do what we've been doing.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, what did you identify from watching the Nebraska tape in regards to your run game and the ineffectiveness there, and what are you trying to iron out this week? Well,
the biggest thing was obviously the third downs. When you go 1 for 10, you can't keep drives alive. You can't control the game, and that's how it goes. But I think it was a combination of things. I don't think we were always ID'd correctly, and Zen did get beat on a few of them there, but it wasn't just him. There were some other things that were mixed in there. But, in Chip, I think we ran it double, twice as much as we threw it in the game. And so we were looking to establish the run. But when you can't convert on the third downs, the third and shorts, then you can't get drives going. You can't wear down defense. So we've got to convert on third down.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, it didn't seem like there were a lot of those kind of like perimeter throws you guys would couple with the run game earlier on in the season in the Nebraska game. Is that just a game plan specific thing to Nebraska, or do you feel like you need to get back to some more of those complementary passes?
Yeah. You try to, game plan based on what you're getting that week. And obviously the game plan didn't work very well. So we got to obviously reconsider it.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, James Franklin kind of left it up in the air yesterday about where they'll go with quarterback. Two different guys, two different styles. How do you prepare for two different quarterbacks for a big game when you've got so much else kind of going on as well?
Yeah, we'll prepare for, both guys being healthy and ready to go. And, they both bring different things to the table, but both are very effective in what they do. So, we'll go based on what we've seen and what's on the film. But, yeah, we have to know who's in the game.
Given that they've played both, even when Aller is healthy, does that help a little bit because you knew you had to prepare for some change up there?
Yeah, regardless, we knew we were going to have to prepare for both quarterbacks. So, and both do things, they both do, they run, they throw, and they both can do things very well. So they're both talented in what they do, just a little bit different in the way that, their skill set's set up. But like you said, we knew we were going to have to prepare for both anyhow.
Over to the far right, Adam King, WBNS.
So we can watch it and we can say the run game's not working, maybe go away from it. But as a coach, what's the conversation like on the headset when you're trying to establish a run game, you're trying to learn in a Nebraska game versus, hey, we've got to get away from this because it's just not working? What's that conversation like?
Well, the number one goal is to move the ball down the field. And, so that has to get done. But you also are looking to, control the game by running the football and making sure that, you're establishing the run and controlling the run and winning the rushing yards. But when you, look at it on the sideline, you got to identify what's going on in the game. And if it's an adjustment that needs to be made, or somebody, just, didn't execute it right, you're not just going to walk away from it. We were explosive when we shot the ball down the field. But that's not always going to happen. We have to make sure that we're establishing runs, we're staying effective, and then again converting on third down, because the more at bats you have during a drive, the better you're going to be. When you're not converting on third down, you're not keeping drives alive. To go 1 for 10, that's just unacceptable. So, we're going to keep swinging at it because we got to make sure that we're doing it the right way and making sure that we're, winning the rushing yards, and especially in this game, we got to win the turnover battle. We got to win the rushing yards, got to win the X plays. And so, you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened in the game, why it didn't get done, and get it fixed.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
What went into the decision that Luke Montgomery ended up being the left guard when you moved Donovan Jackson outside?
Yeah, just based on practice. We have the 1s and 2s, and Luke had been practicing at left guard, for the last couple of weeks, and Austin's, spending time at right guard. So where we were in the game, we felt like Luke had more practice reps under his belt at left guard.
And kind of to what Adam just asked you, obviously, yes, logically you control the game by running the ball. Maybe this is an oversimplification, but can you control the game by just throwing the ball as well? Is that
Listen, I mean, we all have to move the ball. So when we're throwing the ball, we're not running it. When we're running it, not throwing it. The bottom line is you got to convert on third down. So we got to do a good job on both sides of the ball in terms of execution. We got to put the players in a better position to be successful, and we got to move the football. That's the bottom line. So we can look at run, pass, this and every. I mean, the bottom line is we got to convert on third down. We got to have a balance of running and throwing, and move the ball down the field and score touchdowns. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So, we can talk to our blue in the face about running and passing. You want to balance. You got to execute better. That's the bottom line.
Spencer Holbrook, let him in a row.
Right, I know that you guys only had 44 non-kneel down plays. Obviously, the third downs go into that. But when you see the stats, you see Emeka only have three catches and I think four targets. How do you get him more involved, even when your offense seems a little stagnant at times, or third down's not
right? I mean, could convert on third down and keep drives going so you get more plays. Because we didn't have very many plays. So when you do the math on it, and you only have that many plays. The numbers are going to look the way they do. So, we'll always try to figure out ways to get the ball to our best players.
Dan Holt, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you had said last week you had been spending more time with the defense. Does that change around this week? Do you spend more time with the offense?
Yes.
And you had said with Zen that we'll see how he works through this week. Have you gotten a diagnosis on him? Is there a chance he could play this week?
We'll look at it again today and see where he's at. I think there is a chance, but we'll look at it today and get an update for you later in the week.
Tony Gervin, Buckeye Hollow.
So if Zen can go, is he then your starter at left tackle?
If he could go, he would be, yeah.
And how much of that is trying to come up with the most seamless move rather than maybe the most painful, but perhaps the more, I don't know if it would be better or not. Obviously, you try to put the best lineup out there.
Yeah, you got to put the best lineup out there and have enough, to not only just win this game, but, be able to play the rest of the season. So you got to think of a short-term plan, and then you got to come up with a long-term plan. So, we'll do everything we can to win this game, and that's where the focus is right now.
Don Taveri, WBNS.
What's the mood of your club coming in this week, Coach?
What a, unbelievable opportunity right here. I mean, this is, a chance to go to Indianapolis is on the line, and, our guys are excited about playing in this game. I think the defense got a lot of confidence coming off of last week, the way that they played and creating TFLs and winning the game in the fourth quarter. I thought they were flying around. And so, if we can get the offense playing the way it has in the past, combined with the way we played on defense this past week, then, that's what we're looking for in this game. But
how about your quarterback after the game? He said that, he's been waiting his whole life to play in that stadium, to play in this game. He's got a chip on his shoulder. What do you expect out of him?
Yeah, just like everybody else. I mean, for Will, he grew up in Pennsylvania, so I guess that's a little bit different for him. But for everybody else, I mean, again, just like the Oregon game was, this game's been, circled on our schedule. We know what's at stake here, so we're gonna have a great week of practice, great energy in practice, and we're gonna go into that environment and go, finish the way that we didn't have an opportunity, or we didn't do, 2 weeks ago. And so now we have another opportunity to go do that in this game. So now we got to go finish and win the game in the fourth quarter. We know it's going to take 4 quarters in this game. It always does when you go play in this environment. It's a very difficult environment to play in, but we've been in this situation before. Our guys have been in this situation before. So now it's go time to, we'll go win this game and get a top 5 victory. And that's what the guys are focused on right now. The coaching staff, everybody in the building is the focus on winning this game right here.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, you mentioned the tackles for loss and finishing the game in the fourth quarter on defense. After that 2-week stretch, how different was Saturday for the defense? What was the evaluation overall there?
I thought we played with more precision. I think we got lined up faster. I thought we played with better pad level. I thought we played faster. Just everything about it was crisper to me than it was certainly in the Oregon game.
What now that game has been played, what was the one thing you wanted changed the most?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I'm probably not going to get into it right now. But I mean, there's a lot of things that came into play, and I'm going to kind of leave those questions right now for in the meeting room, or leave those conversations for in the meeting room. But the bottom line is, it's our job to make sure we're putting our guys in the best position to be successful. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but we got to do that as coaches and allow them to play fast. And we got to do that again this week. These guys, throw a lot of stuff at you. You got to be able to handle it. And, we want to make sure that when the game comes down to the fourth quarter, our guys are able to go play and win the game in the fourth quarter. We've got to be able to do that on offense and defense in this game. It's a coach's job to make sure that happens.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Sticking with the defense, some of the last 2 games, there's been a sizable gap between your starting 4 snap count and the guys behind them. Are you comfortable with that? Or is that just a matter of those guys need to be on the field, those are your dudes, and they need to play more? Or how's that shaking out?
No, I mean, I definitely think we want to rotate guys, but when the game's on a line like that, we got to make sure that we're getting stops. We did that. We'll have to do that again this week. But yeah, I mean, we got to get K-Mac mixed in more, Hero mixed in more, Kenyatta, Caden Curry, and make sure that our guys are fresh in the fourth quarter.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan Jeremiah obviously came in here with high expectations, and he's had a touchdown in every game. As far as him living up to those expectations, what has allowed him to ultimately think do that?
Well, his consistency and the way he practices is very very mature again for a young player. And now you're getting into the second half of the season, and sometimes some of those freshmen can start to fray a little bit. That's not the way he's been. I mean, he's been better every week. The way he's practiced, the way he's handling himself and his preparation on a week-to-week basis, taking care of his body, making sure he knows the game plan, getting himself to ready to go play in these games. And I thought for a young player, he handled the environment a couple weeks ago really well. He's going to walk in another environment here, but he'll be ready. That week of preparation right here leading up to the game is going to be critical. But up to this point, that's been excellent. The way he is on the field, he doesn't want to miss reps. He'll stay after practice and make sure that he's running the reps with the quarterbacks to make sure the timing is right with Will. So all those things lead to execution on the field.
If I can follow up earlier on Zen, you said if he can go, he would be the starter at left tackle. What was your evaluation of him on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, if he can go, we'll continue to evaluate kind of where we're at. I don't think we've made a decision on that yet. We'll have to first see if he can go, and then go from there. So, there was definitely plays in the game where he got beat and he was battling in there, but then once he got injured, that obviously changed things. But he did not grade out a champion in the game. It had some tough plays, that caused some negative plays. But we know what we see in practice, and we got to continue to support him and make sure that he knows that we have confidence in him when he goes in a game.
Stefan Kreisnik, Cleveland.com.
We talked in the past about going into the season, you didn't need Will Howard to be a superhero. You kind of just needed him to make the plays that were there available. Well, when the offensive line struggles, do you feel like he has a sense of trying to do too much at times, or do you feel comfortable about how he's kind of responded to a situation where maybe the offensive line hasn't been up to par?
No, I don't think he's forcing the action. He had that turnover, which was big in the game, but I feel like for the most part, he's let the game come to him, and we did not do well on third down, and so we got to do that. But that's everybody involved, not just him. But we need him to play well in this game. He's not the only one, but he's got to take care of the football, and like you said, make the routine plays on first, second down, play well on third down, and score touchdowns in the red zone.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, is there any status update on Lathan? And then secondly, what was your impression of the way the defense handled his absence with that rotation as well?
Yeah, we're excited to get a full week of practice out of Lathan, so we'll kind of see again how the week goes with him. But good to know that we built some depth back there for Jordan Hancock to move into another position going into last week's game with just a week of preparation. I thought was excellent. And so, we do have some flexibility there, moving him around. I thought Lorenzo Styles and Jermaine, played well in that game as well, both graded out. So that was good to see because, obviously the depth back there was a little bit of a concern. But then, Jalen McClain, gave us some quality reps back there. So there was quite a few guys getting reps. So, now we'll go into this game now with Lathan, coming back, kind of figure out what that looks like going into it.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Tagger and Austin at right guard, how has that been? And have you wanted to see more separation from the two than you have, or have you seen that?
Yeah, I think they're both playing solid football. But yeah, we'd like to see them both take the next step.
And on Arvell, what's the word you got from the Big Ten about that targeting call and that we didn't take this?
Yeah, just that he's able to play in this game, and that they realize that it should not have been targeting. And I think a part of that was the fact that he was ruled a runner, and then if you're ruled a runner, then it's hard to be defenseless. So how does that become targeting? And so there was a lot of conversation there. So excited that Arvell is going to be with the team this week, and fired up for him.
Jeremy Birmingham podcast.
Ryan, most of the offseason and through the summer, there was a ton of talk about how this veteran team, the most veteran team you've had, lots of player-led stuff through the summer. As you've gotten into now November, at least outside looking in, it seems like a lot of the leadership is coming from Will, Caleb, Seth, guys that weren't here in the past. Is that accurate or a fair assessment? And if it isn't, can you give a little insight into which guys that are holdovers are actually leading this team?
Yeah, I think Cody Simon's been excellent. I thought he played one of his better games this past Saturday. I think you really feel Jack when he's out there. He's strong. I mean, he loves the Buckeyes and just drives everybody in practice. You feel and hear him a lot. Lathan, not having Lathan there, was. But I thought even on the sideline, Lathan was in it the whole time. So it was good to see him support his team. He's a vocal leader for us there. On offense, like you said, I think Will's really done a good job of that. I think, Mecca as a wide receiver, is a great leader. And I think Seth has really taken on the responsibility of the guys up front. But when you go 1 for 10 on third down, execution fuels emotion. And, when you're not converting on third downs, it's hard to get your rhythm going. So I think, the guys were a little bit frustrated on Saturday. So we got to do a better job executing and converting.
If I could just spin off something totally different. As an offensive play caller, when you're looking at your offensive alignment and you see defensive ends and like wide line stuff, how does that change the way you would attack a defense?
Well, yeah, I think every defense has its own, approach to start with. And, sometimes, it's outside, playing defense where you're kind of forcing everything inside, or it's an inside playing defense that's kind of forcing things outside. And just depending on, how that coverage is set up, how the front is set up, it has a different philosophy.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, you said before that if Donovan needs to be the next option to move to left tackle, is that still the plan right now? And how many reps, how often has he gotten reps at left tackle? What would your level of confidence be with him?
Yeah, we've practiced him in the past, knowing that this could be a situation that we may need to go to. And so we'll get him some more this week. And, we feel like he's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football, and, we'll have to continue to identify the things that, he's going to do well and the things that he's going to, need more and more reps at. But this is a veteran player who's played a lot of football.
Abdul Carter's obviously a really good edge rusher. They got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
How big a concern is just that matchup, their defensive line against your offensive line?
Yeah, he's excellent. And it's not just him. I think they have a lot of good players on defensive line and on defense in general. So you certainly, got to know where 11 is on the field. He's dynamic as a player. So whether it's run game, pass game, I mean, you got to really do a good job with him. And I think, like you said, there's other guys on that line that are really good as well. So it'll be a challenge for our guys, and so we got to have a great week of preparation. And I think our guys are going to be fired up to play in this game. And I think it's a great challenge for our guys up front coming off of last week. So we're in it now, and we got a lot in the line this week. And so here we go. We got to go win this game.
And we'll wrap things up with Tim May, Letterman Row.
Thanks, Jerry. Ryan, just two quickies. Number one, I know you can't talk about it too much, but the concern level of the replay review immediately in the stadium, in the command center at the Big Ten, not finding what was found later when the explanation was done. Where is that, I don't know, in your concern level from the standpoint of there was a fumble on that play and Ohio State got the football. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it doesn't do any good on Tuesday to get, something big. So I guess what kind of concern have you voiced about that you can maybe impart?
Well, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of conversation, and it's gone on for quite a while, but it started, most recently, when Denzel had his situation, and we talked about being a little bit more, not being as technical with it. And then we kind of got into this weekend, and it seems like we kind of fell back into that a little bit. So without getting into the details of all the conversation, it's very difficult to try to coach these players on what exactly to do in that situation. And so, I think what Arvell did in that situation is about what we'd expect someone to do and react in that moment right there, trying to go win the game with the game on the line. And, it keeps, from what I believe, he keeps his head out of the tackle. And so it's frustrating to think, with everything on the line and, you're trying to teach the guys what to do, to be put in that situation is very difficult. Now, I give the league, the league credit. I think the easy thing to do would have been just to, say no, but they did at least stand up and say no. That should not have been targeting in that moment. Yeah, I mean, nobody's more frustrated than me. But I keep going back to the fact that we have to leave no doubt, and I think that the way that we finished that game, even though, that was the worst case scenario. Not only do you get the 15 yards, but it's the completion. So you get the ball where the fumble was, and you get the yardage tacked on. So, but you know what? It was a good challenge for our defense to say, hey, no matter what happens in this game, we didn't get that call. We got to get off the field and go win the game. And we did that. And so to me, like that's the biggest lesson here. Like, it's going to be the same thing on Saturday. I don't know what's coming, and I'm not, expecting to get a bunch of calls because, it doesn't seem to just happen for us. So we got to go win the game and leave no doubt and win convincingly. That's the goal. And so coming out of the game, I think for our defense to build confidence, knowing no matter what happens, we got to get a stop. There's nothing we can do about, what the calls are.
And one of the quick, for just an average fan watching that game Saturday, you had two big pass plays, and not until you really needed a touchdown did you get the drive. You know what I mean? And what just came right about that drive, and how frustrated were you and Chip about trying to figure out that, or whatever term you want to use, conundrum, puzzle that Nebraska was causing you, and all of a sudden, y'all made it look easy. Just. Well, can you explain to an average fan what kind of happens there?
Yeah, first off, like I said to our team, and I said, what happened the week before with the Nebraska-Indiana game was not going to be the same team that came in here, and they played well, and they have a good team, and Matt does a nice job, and so it was frustrating. You could see me on the sideline, and it was extremely frustrating, and so there's a lot of things that we got to take from this, but. What hasn't happened in some of the other games is when you get to the fourth quarter like that, when you're in the games in the balance like that, you got to go win the game. And that's what happened. We need to put a drive together. We did. We need to get stops. We did. I would love to seen us, when we got the ball back, finish the game in a 4-minute drill. That didn't happen. So I guess the thing to come out of this game and positive is that, when you get to the fourth quarter, we got to execute and win the game. That's it. The statistics, the score, none of that really matters. Go win the game. And that's the way it's going to be here Saturday at State College. Yeah. Okay, you guys got it.
Yeah. Hey, Coach. Great. Thanks for showing up. All right, folks, we're going to spend a little time with Coach Kelly over here to the right, Adam King, WBNS.
Coach, I know I'm not a play caller. I understand that, and it can be sometimes from fan perspective to say, hey, these other teams are running trick plays and they're trying to get the defense off and running flea flickers and stuff. When you look at that, how much do you consider adding a wrinkle like that in a big game like this?
In a big game like this, well, we think every game is a big game. So all of our game plans are specific for our opponent. So, it's easy to say, hey, you should do this, this, and this. Well, does the defense, are they good at that or are they not good at that? You know what I mean? I think you're always looking for a weakness in the defense that you face. And I think each defense that you face from every opponent is different, not only from a schematic standpoint, but from a personnel standpoint. So you spend all your weeks trying to prepare for who your opponent is, both scheme-wise and personnel-wise. And there are trick plays sometimes that fit in there. There are sometimes trick plays that don't fit in there. But, I obviously understand that the trick plays they're fun to watch. They're also the negative part of the trick play can put you in a really adverse situation. So, I think we're always trying to get positive yards on first and second down to make sure you can get into workable third downs, and you want to make sure that you're taking care of the football.
I asked Ryan, obviously you want to be able to run the football in a game like Nebraska. So you're running it and trying to develop that and grow that. At what point in that game do you have to say, okay, we've just got to go win the football game? And how does that change the play call?
Yeah, I don't think it changes the play call because our game plan going into the Nebraska game is that we have to run the football to develop our running game. Like we're at a point where we're not trying to develop anything right now. We're trying to win football games. So, what's our best chance against what they're doing? And then obviously you can have plans going into the week, but sometimes that plan changes as the game starts to express itself, as you start to see, what the matchups are like. You have an understanding going into the game, what you think the matchups are like, but they may not be what you think they are as the game goes along. So then you have to adjust within the game.
Jeremy Birmingham, podcast.
Chip, is there, as you head into a weekend like this where you're going to probably see a lot of pressure, again, you're talking team-specific, scenarios, but does that maybe force Will to be more involved in the run game? That, like, as you head into these days of practice, is that something that you're thinking about?
I think it depends on who you're playing and what they're doing. Sometimes people generate pressure by just rushing four guys, and that doesn't, and they're playing coverage behind it, and they can do a good job of taking care of your quarterback. Other people's version of pressure is to blitz 7 or 8 guys, and there's an opportunity at those times when there's a hole in what they're bringing at you that you can pop something like that. So again, I think it depends on each team. The one thing I know about this team is that they're extremely sound. They can generate pressure with just their front four, and I think that's one of their strengths. I think their 2 defensive ends are as good as we'll face. They got a really good interior defensive tackle in Durant that can generate pass rush. So, I think the luxury when you have a defense where you can generate pressure with just the front four, then you can play a little bit more coverage, play a little bit closer to receivers because you think those 4 guys are going to come home. So their blitz percentages aren't as high as some of the teams that we play because those 4 guys up front can generate that pressure.
Traditional run game wasn't getting really getting going on Saturday. Do you start to think like maybe we just throw it something more for Will to throw people off, or how does that work?
You think about a lot of things when things aren't working. So yes, but I also it's what you practice and against the looks that the different team presents. So you couldn't be more drastic in terms of looks than what Nebraska runs and what Penn State runs. So it's it's an entirely different thought process as you flip into this week against Penn State.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Chip, you've been pretty innovative and versatile with your offense in your career. When you look at what Coach Mickey's doing at Penn State and what they have going with Tyler Warren, what are your thoughts on
I haven't watched a ton of them. I watched a lot of them when he was at Kansas last year, but we haven't. I'm not defending him, so Jim and those guys on defense have spent more time studying him. In season isn't a time where you're trying to study guys and say, hey, let's look at this and let's run that. It's more of who are we playing? What is Tom Allen presenting with the defense that Penn State has, and how are we going to attack that? But, I really liked what he did at Kansas and did some really interesting things there. And it sounds like he's doing some of the similar things at Penn State.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Chip, what makes Abdul Carter just so disruptive? You talked this season about Jordan Birch. I know every defensive end or edge rusher is different. What is it about Abdul that separates him?
He's extremely explosive for his size. He's got, he's played linebacker before, and now they moved him to the front. He's a lot like Micah in terms of what he can do and disrupting the game as a pass rusher, and understand why they moved him up there. But I think it's his athleticism that you probably don't see that athleticism usually in a defensive lineman. that you get from him. And that's the one thing, even trying to replicate that in practice, do you have somebody that's that fast? If you do, he's probably not the same size as him. So, it's that size speed combination, and his ability to really get off on the snap is what's going to make him difficult to handle. And we got to make sure we understand where he is. They've done a decent job. He had been predominantly playing on one side, but in the Wisconsin game, they moved him to the other side. So they could put him on either side, and we need to be aware of where he is.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Chip, there's been an uptick the last two games you guys have played, and just runs kind of stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. Have you identified anything there, call-wise, execution-wise, that you guys need to iron out going into this game?
Yeah, I mean, we can't live with the way we ran the ball last week, and so that's part of what we have to do heading into this game, because you're going to have to win the rushing battle to win games in the Big Ten. So we certainly understand that. Again, like I said earlier, Penn State's defense is different than Nebraska's, so things that you would do against Penn State are different than things you would do against Nebraska. But you're right in that we have to establish a run in this game.
You can't just snap your fingers and generate an explosive.
You wish you could, though.
I know you wish you could. But you guys were good at getting those, explosive run plays earlier on in the year. I understand you play better defenses. It's more challenging. But how much is that on your mind? I guess trying to find ways to be more explosive.
Yeah, your mind is just how can we be successful, and then success is generating first downs. And the way you generate first downs is to put yourself in convertible third down situations, or actually convert on first and second down and not even be in third down. So it's really, what's our efficiency like on first and second down, so we can put ourselves in a workable third down situation.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I know you missed all of what Josh Simmons was for you as a left tackle, but where does his absence show up more, in the run game or in the passing game as a pass program?
I think in both, because Josh was not just a one-dimensional player. He was a really, really talented player that's going to play football on Sundays, and as a pass protector, his athleticism was, as good as there was in the country, but his quickness and his ability to get out of the stance and get his hands on people was a real asset for us in the run game. So, you missed both of that with Josh. He wasn't just a one-dimensional player. So he's back in the building now, and he's running around, got a smile on his face, which we're happy for, and I hope he's off to a full recovery. But, when you miss a player of Josh's talent, that's going to hurt, but we got to step up and we got to go on and we got to move on, because everybody at this point in time has had injuries. So, and has lost somebody at some point in time, depending on position, but everybody's lost somebody at this point in time. And that's what we knew going into this, if you're going to be playing a 16 or 17 game season, that there's going to be some attrition that happens, and who it is, you don't know, but you got to be able to weather that storm if you're going to be successful.
Can you just evaluate where you think your offensive line depth is right now that you spent 3 weeks watching it without Josh, and obviously some other injuries, but also get the chance to see some of these guys play in meaningful snaps? Where you think your offensive line is right now?
Yeah, they're where we need them to be right now, because that's who we have. This isn't the National Football League where if you do lose somebody, you can go out to the waiver wire and go find another player at that position. You got to be able to handle it at your position. We've lost a really good one in Josh, and then everybody else is fighting and scrapping to stay in there. A bunch of guys, when you've played this many games during the season, are banged up and bruised up a little bit, but so aren't they? And that's the same thing that Penn State's probably dealing with, the same thing that we're dealing with. So it's part of the game, and we don't look at it as, boy, you got to feel sorry for us because we lost some players. That's the reality of what college football is, and it's a team that can survive and advance despite losing a player or two that are going to be successful.
Austin Ward, podcast.
I know that this is a lot easier for me to say in hindsight and in my position. When you're struggling to run the football and you're trying to find a solution, like you said, to just win the game, why is that not as easy as Jeremiah, Mecca, or Carnell? Like, maybe we're just going to throw this game.
I think if you look at Jeremiah, Mecca, and Carnell, they came up big, especially in that, you look at that drive we had to get in the fourth quarter, and it started off with Carnell making a huge catch for us for 30-plus yard gains, and I think but it's not as easy as what you're saying, because if they're going to play coverage over the top of them, then sometimes you can take an individual receiver away. So if you look at Saturday's game, we just got to do a better job on third down. If we didn't really convert the third and shorts, we had a 3rd and 1 we missed, we had a 3rd and 2 we missed, we had a 3rd and 3 we missed, we had a 4th and 1 we missed. If we converted in short yardage situations, I think it would have been a different outcome. But we have to be better in short yardage, and obviously this week that's a big part of the game plan.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Chip, Jeremiah came in here with high expectations, and for him to be a freshman and kind of produce week in and week out, what do you think's allowed him to do that?
Yeah, I think there's a maturity to Jeremiah that most freshmen or most people don't have, especially at that age. Like he is as serious a football player as I've been around, and his goal every single day is just to improve. And it's just for him to get better at one facet of the game. And I think it's almost like you're dealing with a 10-year NFL veteran in terms of how he approaches meetings, how he approaches practice. And it's rare, and that's the first thing I said. Obviously, when you meet Jeremiah, his physical skills they're kind of incomparable for someone at that age, but I think it's his maturity level that really has set him apart, and that his mindset is, because there's a lot of guys that could get caught up in that, in the hype and everything, talking about him and all the people they're comparing him to and all that, but you don't see that out of him. He's the one guy that practices every single day, and if Coach Hart holds him out for a play for some reason, like he's genuinely not happy. Like he wants to practice, he wants to play, and I think really it's his mindset that kind of sets him apart and makes him such a special player.
Have teams at all defended him differently as the season's?
People have, lean safeties to him and try to get people over the top of him, and I think we moved him around a little bit. The play he scored a touchdown on, he was lined up inside at receiver and not outside at receiver, and we were able to get him through the middle of the field. So as he's been around, the longer we've been around, we've had a chance to move him around a little bit. And I think that's obviously eventually the plan. When you have a good receiver and you just leave him in the same spot all the time, it's a lot easier to defend him. So his ability to grasp game plans and allow us to move him around like he does is another credit to him.
Far left, Whitney Hardy, WCME.
3 weekends ago, you guys were on the road, top 4 matchup, and came up just short.
Mm-hmm.
Now here we are again, on the road, top 4 matchup. How do you see this as a chance to redeem isn't the right word, but an exciting opportunity to kind of show like, yes, we can win these tough, close matchup games like this?
Yeah, I don't think you compare either game to each other because I think they're their own separate entities. But, when you look at the schedule and you're playing Penn State at Penn State, that's enough to get you excited. That's why you play, and that's why you came to school here, is to play in games like this. But you came in here to win games like this. So it's about our preparation. I think this group it's a little bit of an older group, so I think they handle how to practice each week really, really well. I think this team practices really, really well. So, it all starts for us because today's our first day, is having a really, really good Tuesday, having a good Tuesday in meetings, having a good Tuesday on the practice field, and then learning as we start to implement what our game plan is.
Now, you heard Will's comments after the last game about how he feels going into this game. Being from Pennsylvania, he said he's stoked. He always wanted to play there, and he, in his words, maybe wasn't good enough, and he hopes to show that he was. Do you hope that kind of juice kind of infiltrates the rest of the team going into this week?
I think our team is extremely intrinsically motivated, and it doesn't take, because Will's going back home, for Trayshawn to say, all right, now I'm going to take this game a little bit more seriously. I mean, you watched how he practices and how he prepares. He takes every game serious, and I think he sets a tone. So that older group, Will, Trey, Donnie, those guys that have been around and played a lot of football in their college careers understand the magnitude of this football game.
Tim May, Letterman Road.
Last question.
No.
Oh, I thought that was a tradition. I was hoping it was a tradition.
So the motto this week isn't "Where there's a will, there's a way." I'm just being smart.
That's a good one. You should get a T-shirt made.
Yeah, no.
NIL.
There you go. As you look back on last week, I mean, the Oregon game, speaking of that, a lot of short yardage situations. Y'all even got into robust T, is what I call it. One time, I think, in the middle of the field and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Two backs look anyway a lot and stuff. I don't remember seeing that, if at all, on Saturday and stuff. And I'm just wondering, as you're sitting there in the press box, are you continually going through your mental Rolodex about how do we get this fixed? I mean, what's going on here? Are guys just missing blocks, or are guys not recognizing fronts? I mean, just how is that all, as you were trying to solve that puzzle?
I think like any staff, you have a list of what your short yardage game plan is going into that game, which is specific for the team that you're playing. So something that you may have run against Oregon isn't even in the game plan that you ran against Nebraska, just because how they deploy their front on a short yardage situation is entirely different than how Oregon deployed their front. So one play that worked against one team may not work against another team. So, there's really a list. Is when we get to short yardage, we're going here first, here second, here third, and then working through that operation. But we ran a quarterback sneak. The first time we ran it, we were in a condensed set with tight ends and wings, and brought the receiver back down into the mix. So there really were no spread receivers on that play. The second time we ran an empty look and we ran a quarterback sneak. So we also ran another quarterback sneak coming out of our own 1 yard line, but we did that with 3 tight ends in the game. So as you go through it, there's a list of things that we practice during the week, and we're calling what we do on Saturday based upon what we did during the week because of who our opponent is.
And so, but when you come off a game like that, where literally the work on third down was poor, you know what I mean? The conversions on third down was poor. Do you just throw that in the trash? I mean, what, you know what I mean? Well, I guess what I'm asking is, what do you think y'all got wrong in that respect? Because all of a sudden it came right on the last drive, of course.
Yeah, and that's football. I don't think there's not one perfect play call to call all the time. If you did, everybody would do it. I think it's a combination of the situation, what happened, what was the snap count, what formation were we in, how did the defense react? Did they react the way that we thought they were going to react, and put people in the places that we practiced what we thought they were going to be in? So it's all a combination of that. When you're going to be successful on third down, it takes a lot of work and takes all 11 guys and the play caller being on the same page.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Chip, you said, Ryan has said many times, there's no waiver wire in college football. You lost Josh Simmons, obviously. This team still has the same championship aspirations it always has.
Sure.
How confident are you as an offensive coordinator that this offensive line, as it is right now, can take you there?
I'm very confident. I watch those guys every day, and I think there's a really good group of guys. We lost one in a really good one in Josh, but there's a bunch of other guys there that I think are really, really good football players. So I think we're really confident and excited about this challenge that Penn State presents for us.
And if Donovan has to move to left tackle, what's your level of confidence with him? Obviously, he's a very good guard, or play tackle in a game.
Yeah, I think Donnie could play anywhere on the offensive line. He's that type of player, and I think the best combination is, I think first off, got to find out exactly who's healthy by the time game time rolls around, and then we'll put together what we think is going to give us our best opportunity there. But we're extremely confident in Donnie if he had to go there.
And final question, Tony Gertman, Buckeye Huddle.
Chip, aside from the 2 runs for 70 yards for Travion against Oregon, Travion and Quinshon have averaged about 2 yards a carry the last 2 games. Is there any common denominator there for why?
I wouldn't say there's a common denominator. I think on each specific play, there's probably a reason. Is it a missed block or a misread, or did we, have a check that we're supposed to do? So there's always a lot of different reasons for it. If there was, then it would be easily you wouldn't do it again. You know what I mean?
Does that make you feel better or worse about it than, I guess, if it's
Well, you don't feel good at all whenever you don't convert when you feel like you should be converting. So, but it's all of us, and it starts with me as a play caller to put ourselves in situations where they have an opportunity to be successful. So that's part of what we do during the week in terms of putting game plans together.
with Will, how much of last week did he have the opportunity to read more, or keep as much as he has in previous games, or were those more handoffs?
No, there's probably the same fair share in every game, but it also depends. I think, when people, maybe a misconception is, well, you got to run the quarterback more, but if that defensive end doesn't squeeze down and allow the quarterback to run, then they're allowing you to hand the football off. So they want you to hand the football off. So a lot of that part of the game, just in that specific play on zone read plays, is that not every zone read play does the quarterback keep the football, because if the defensive end does not close down, that's his read, then his job is to hand the ball off. So if you're on defense, you could try to take away a lot of different things. It's just, what do you want to take away? We haven't had many specific, just straight snap the ball to the quarterback and have him run the quarterback power, like Tim Tebow would do back in the day. That's not what we are with him, but I think he can hurt people with his feet, and he has. But you're also leery of, when you have a quarterback, that's great, and then he has a gain of 20 and gets knocked out of the game. So now, one of the best abilities of a quarterback is availability. So do you expose him? That's why, besides Lamar Jackson, you don't see much run in the NFL, because you pay a guy $24 million to throw the football around. You don't want to have him running around and getting hit in the head and then knocked out of the game, because it's a physical football game. So there's a fine balance of that. It's easy to say, we should just run the quarterback more. Okay, but what does that do, and what toll does that take on the quarterback? And if that happens, then is your quarterback knocked out of the game? And if that's the situation, then what does that do? How does your offense change, or does it change or you go on to the next guy? So that's the dilemma, I think, that every football coach has when you have a quarterback that has the ability to run, is that how much do you want to run him and expose him to hits? Because that's part of what happens. Because when he drops back, he's going to get hit. I think there's a lot of shots that quarterbacks take that, it's a really, really tough position to play just because of the toll that it takes on your body. So you got to be conscious of that a little bit in terms of saying, hey, all right, let's just come out and say we're going to run the ball. We're going to run Wilf 25 times against Penn State. Well, all right, is he going to be available for the rest of the season? I don't know about that. So,
Coach, thank you very much.
thanks, guys.
All righty, guys. Got a little time with Coach Knowles. We'll start with Joey Kaufman, first round coach.
Jim, Ryan mentioned Lathan was expecting the full week of practice this week. If he's able to play, what does he provide? Or just in last week, how do you think you guys did without having him, despite having sort of a mix of guys in that spot?
Yeah, I think Jordan stepped up really well. I mean, that was a big change for him, and he handled it. He handled all of it. Having Lathan back, the experience, the run stopping capability, I think that helps us for sure. And then Jordan can go back to nickel, based on how Lathan really holds up this week.
We'll go in the middle here. Dan Hope, one word.
Yeah, Jim, it seems like the last couple of weeks you guys have had some trouble with quarterbacks stepping up through the pocket, being able to take off and run. What are the things that you guys need to do better to not allow that to happen this week?
I think we need to, when we do decide to bring pressure, we need to be on our assignments and our gaps. I think anytime you bring pressure, there's a chance to create creases. And then, just keep working on our rush lanes. It's not easily done. When you want guys to throw moves and get pressure, there's going to be some seams. So it's just a constant process of working on it.
It did seem like there was a concerted effort to do more stuff schematically in the pass rush game last week. What kind of an emphasis was that over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'd say that was a big emphasis for us, to try to find ways to create more pressure.
Go on to Iowa here, Dylan Davis.
Jim, we hear so much about, keeping guys fresh along the defensive line and having that rotation. There's been a sizable gap the last 2 weeks in your top four and what's behind them. Thinking with a guy like Caden McDonald, are you comfortable with the snaps these guys are getting behind your top four?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with whatever Coach Johnson deems appropriate. He's around those guys all the time. He manages those guys, and, he knows what he's doing.
Fifth row, Cameron C. Robinson.
Jim, kind of on the pressures, you guys blitzed on third down more than you guys had all year. What did you see that you think works? And then what do you think can tighten up, I guess, even for looking down at pocket there sometimes?
Yeah, I think it worked. Bringing more people in different ways, not just relying on our guys up front. Trying to give them chances for matchups and just create more looks. When the quarterback gets out against a pressure, it can be a big deal. So we just got to keep working on it.
A guy like Lathan back, maybe it frees up Caleb a little more, do some more things. How much more versatility does that give you when you want to send pressure to different areas?
Yeah, I think it changes things. You have a veteran guy who's done it, who can adjust to different formations, and we're going to see a ton of different formations. So I think it does allow you to do more.
Go second row on the aisle, Bill Lentz.
Jim, I know stop rate is a key metric for you in these matchup games with the one you're about to play. The fourth quarter stop rate has been, I'd imagine, far worse than you would like it to be.
Yes.
What have you identified, I guess, is any kind of commonality in those situations? And I guess what's on your mind thinking going into a game against Penn State that probably will be another four-quarter game?
Yeah. Just fundamentals, I mean, I think when you're away and it's loud and, you have to really go back to your basics and you have to be able to line up fast and adjust to 1,000 different formations, and you can't get too cute. You really just have to go back to your fundamentals and your basics when you're in those situations.
On the topic of what we just asked about defensive line rotation, what is your role? What should your role be as the coordinator in making sure the guys that you want on the field are on the field? I understand you want to empower your position coaches, and they are around those guys the most, but should it come down to ultimately what the guys that you want on the field rather than any singular position coach?
No, I think it always has to be it always has to involve the full group, including the head coach. I mean, you have to operate as a team. You always want to defer to the position coach. There are other opinions, that people have, and we all work together on it. But it's got to be all together.
Go right in front, Austin Moore.
Jim, when this team goes with that Rushman look and has Caden and Kenyatta inside and JT and Jack staying on the outside, what's the thought process there? I am an amateur. You are an expert. Just the eyeball test would tell you that maybe those should be flip-flopped.
Yeah, I think it's a constant experimentation. I think who's good at what. I remember a play earlier in the year with Caden matched up on a guard, and he whipped him and got the clean sack. So I think there's a lot of experimentation there, getting people in the right spots and just seeing who works what best.
Deep center field, Jeremy Birmingham.
Jim, how do you coach a player out of defensive pass interference situations? And is there a moment when a guy like Jimmy Matthews, who's playing sparingly this year, you almost have no choice but to say, we need to put this other guy in there, because it seems like Davison has been kind of spotlighted by officials for his handsiness. How do you guys coach that? What's the process into changing it up?
Yeah, we have to help them. I mean, one of the ways is to, which we'll be doing this week to help Davison, is to use gloves during practice. We got to put the gloves on him, so that he can't grab. I like him being physical. I think you just have to keep coaching. There are times, okay, you've won, you're in good position. You can't latch on. You can't latch on at that point. But I still want him to play physical. I just like the finish to be different, and we got to find ways to help him.
This past weekend, it seemed like Denzel and Davison maybe flip sides to start the game. What's the thought process behind that?
We feel that Davison is better being up more, and fighting at the line of scrimmage more. So, the thought is to switch those guys to put them into those positions.
Front row, Dave DeBill.
Jim, Penn State has a first-year offensive coordinator they brought up from Kansas. It seems like they're doing a lot more innovative stuff this year. What have you seen from them this year offensively, maybe that's different than the last 2 years when you guys faced them?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot different. There are multiple formations and shifts. I mean, like all the time. So all of that window dressing to create stress on the defense, that's really a lot different. And then you add in the quarterback run game. That's a lot different.
Fourth row middle, Tony Birdman.
With targeting and on-field refs disagreeing with replay officials disagreeing with the Big Ten agreeing, disagreeing with the NCAA. What is an acceptable penalty for something that two people in a row can't agree on?
I don't know if I have that answer. I mean, I think everybody's trying to work through protecting the players. You don't want to see any shots to the head or anybody lowering their head. I mean, that's how I see targeting. Keep your head up. Don't hit the other guy in the head, and keep your own head up. To me, that's a pretty good definition, and that's for the safety of the players.
Should a player lose a game for something that three different people can disagree on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's above my pay grade. I mean, I don't know.
Here to the front center, Bill Rabinowitz.
But we did free Arvell, right? We freed him. Free Arvell. Free Arvell.
I'm curious how you kind of look at last week's defensive performance. I mean, you held Nebraska to one touchdown. You had a goal line stand when they had the ball at the 7-yard line. Yet they also had a bunch of chunk plays. It was a step forward, obviously, from Oregon, but Oregon's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you view where the defense is right now?
Yeah. You're right. From that week, we improved our performance, but I still not good enough. I mean, we know that there are too many explosives. I mean, we have to eliminate those explosives. That's a key to winning games. Even more so than turnovers. If you look at the analytics, it's all about the explosive plays. So I think we need to tighten that up. I like the resilience though, like you said, to be able to stop them when we had to and fighting to the end. So that's definitely something to build on.
If I could squeeze in two quickies. Sorry, Tim. Having to go against two potentially very different quarterbacks. I mean, one's obviously a passer, one's more of a runner. That challenge, and also their tight end is obviously a really good player. Can you just discuss the challenge that you have there?
Yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, add in all the formations and motions. When you have a quarterback who can run and hurt you with the run, that really changes the game plan. So you almost have to look at it two different things. And the tight end is, again, he's another guy you never know where he's going to be and the things he's going to do. So you just always have to be aware of where he's at.
Second row, Stephen.
Two different things there. For starters, I know there's been concerns about the safety depth. What do you think about Jalen and what he did on Saturday?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. True freshman. He's got a lot of guts and he's smart. Missed a tackle, right? That led to an explosive run, but he was in the right place. Made a great play on that over route. Really heads up play for a young kid. So I really like his progress and his improvement.
And I think on all three of your sacks, you sent blitzes that got them there. But also, obviously, the way this defensive line has been recruited, maybe you're expecting more abilities to get pressure with just 4-man. Do you think you guys are generating enough pressure with just 4-man rushes? Stepping games.
Well, you're never satisfied. You're never satisfied. But I think it's always a work in progress. Just getting those guys to do what they do best. They're talented. They want to. They're coachable. So it's just a constant growth process.
Wrap it up here in the front, Tim Nick.
Thanks, Michael. Do you tell JT this week, just do what you did 2 years ago? I mean, is that the plan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, following up on that, how pleased? I mean, I guess how disciplined do you have to be when they do throw all that eye candy, that window dressing at you and stuff? What's the last thing you'd like to tell a player before he takes the field against a defense, against an offense like that, where they will mix and match, but really kind of run some basic stuff out of it?
Yeah. Do your job. I mean, it boils down to that. Do your job. When it gets to be a lot of those things they do, particularly with this quarterback, it becomes like an option game. You have to be really focused on doing your job.
And Denzel Burke, did he have the bounce back game you kind of wanted for him last week? Because obviously he had a tough time at Oregon, at least for a quarter and a half or so. What do you think he got out of that? Do you see a little bit of difference in him this week?
I don't see a difference. I mean, he's always competitive, always wants to get better. But yeah, I'm proud of him. I thought he bounced back. I think they went after him a couple times, and he did a great job. So I mean, I thought it was a strong performance by him, which you're happy for him to be able to be resilient and bounce back.
All right, Coach, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Jim.